Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a YouTube phenomenon that's probably popped up in your feed. The poor versus Giga Rich videos. You know the ones where dolls or animated characters navigate everyday life, like a school day or a hospital visit, but with wildly different budgets. On the surface, they're pure entertainment, often silly, sometimes heartwarming. But if you look a little closer, these seemingly simple narratives actually offer a surprisingly fertile ground for exploring some fascinating and often complex economic concepts. Let's break it down. The archetypes, a caricature of economic strata. First, let's establish the key players in these financial dramatizations. We consistently see three distinct archetypes, each representing a simplified economic stratum. There's always the poor character. They're typically depicted with fewer possessions, simpler clothes, and frequently face daily struggles like limited resources or basic needs. This character serves as a broad caricature of lower-income households. They often highlight themes of resourcefulness and making do with less, even if their struggles are presented in a light-hearted, almost whimsical way. Economically, they represent the constant negotiation of scarcity and opportunity cost, choosing between one essential need and another. Then there's the rich character. This individual enjoys a comfortable life, accessorized with the latest gadgets, trendy clothes, and generally doesn't seem to worry about money. They might be a bit snobby or simply enjoying their privileges without malice. This archetype generally reflects a middle to upper income bracket where discretionary spending is more common and material comfort is a given. Their economic reality is one of choice and convenience, a stark contrast to the poor character. And then the absolute showstopper, the Giga Rich character. This is where the economic absurdity really kicks in. We're talking private jets for a trip across town, diamond-encrusted everything, and homes that are practically miniature amusement parks. Their wealth is so over-the-top, it transcends mere richness. It's a fantastical, exaggerated representation of extreme affluence and limitless resources. They embody the ultimate fantasy of having no financial constraints whatsoever, offering viewers a glimpse into a world where money literally solves every problem, no matter how outlandish. Understanding the why. Economic principles at play. So, why are these videos so incredibly popular, especially with younger audiences? Beyond simple entertainment, there are several powerful economic and psychological undercurrents that make them so compelling and endlessly rewatchable. One of the most obvious factors is wish fulfillment and escapism. For most viewers, extreme wealth is an abstract concept, perhaps only glimpsed in movies or news reports. These videos offer a vibrant, visual, and highly imaginative simulation of what limitless financial freedom might look like. It's a low-stakes way to explore a world without budget constraints, a form of economic fantasy that allows us to dream big, even if it's completely unrealistic. Another crucial concept at play is conspicuous consumption. First theorized by the brilliant economist Thorstein Veblen in the late 19th century, conspicuous consumption is the act of spending money on luxury goods and services primarily to publicly display economic power and status. The Giga Rich character is a textbook, almost exaggerated example of this theory in action. Their purchases aren't about utility or practicality. They're purely about demonstrating immense wealth and superiority. Think of the solid gold phone, the diamond-studded backpack, or the custom-built jewel-encrusted car. These are direct, vivid representations of Veblen's theory, stripped down to its most visually digestible form. It's not just buying things, it's buying attention and status. These videos also brilliantly, albeit crudely, highlight stark income inequality and purchasing power. When the poor character brings a basic packed lunch to school, while the Giga Rich character has a Michelin-starred chef cater their meal, it's a vivid, if comedic, illustration of how vastly different financial resources translate into fundamentally different living standards and access to goods and services. This stark comparison, even in a simplified context, can subtly introduce viewers to the realities of wealth, disparity, and the varying levels of purchasing power across different economic strata. Furthermore, there's the curiosity of extremes, what economists might call the rubbernecking effect. Just as we're drawn to spectacles, we're naturally curious about the lives of those at the very top or bottom of the economic ladder. These videos tap into that intrinsic human desire to observe and understand different realities, even if those realities are fictional and exaggerated. The demonstration effect, fueling aspirations and pressure. Beyond simply displaying wealth, these videos powerfully illustrate the demonstration effect. This economic and sociological phenomenon describes how the consumption patterns and lifestyles of wealthier groups, or elites, significantly influence the desires and aspirations of other social classes. When viewers see the Giga Rich dolls with their private jets, endless designer wardrobes, and extravagant homes, even in a playful context, it can subtly normalize the idea that these goods are not just desirable, but also achievable, or at least that they are a strong indicator of success. This effect can translate into increased consumer pressure. When rich or giga-rich characters own the latest gadgets or luxury accessories, it can, perhaps subconsciously, calibrate viewers' expectations and wants. Even if a child, or an adult, knows it's just a video, repeated exposure to ultra-luxurious lifestyles can subtly shift their personal benchmarks for what constitutes a good life, or even a necessity. This might push individuals to desire items they wouldn't have considered otherwise, or to feel a sense of inadequacy compared to these often unrealistic yet highly visible fictional standards. Ultimately, these videos, despite their apparent innocence, can contribute to a broader culture where the accumulation of goods and the display of wealth are seen as primary indicators of status and happiness. The cost of living and real-world purchasing power. Even in their exaggerated form, these videos provide a fantastic, albeit simplified, lens through which to examine differences in purchasing power and the real cost of living. Imagine we could create a comparative budget for each character. For the poor character, every euro or dollar is critical, going towards basic necessities. We could show what their limited budget might realistically buy for rent in, say, Paris, compared to the actual average rent. For the rich character, we'd see comfortable spending on higher quality housing, food, and discretionary items. But for the giga-rich character, the budget becomes almost infinite, buying an entire apartment building, a private chef for every meal, or a fleet of luxury cars. We could use real-world data, average rents, food prices, transportation costs like petrol or public transit fares, to starkly contrast with the video's fantasy. This visual comparison would highlight the sheer scale of financial disparity. Furthermore, consider the impact of inflation. How does a rise in the price of everyday goods and services affect these classes differently? The poor character, living paycheck to paycheck, is incredibly vulnerable to increases in the price of food, energy, or basic housing. A 5% rise in grocery prices could mean difficult choices between food and heating. For the rich character, inflation is an inconvenience, perhaps reducing their discretionary spending slightly. But for the giga-rich, inflation is virtually irrelevant to their daily consumption. Their wealth cushions them entirely from such economic shocks. This vividly demonstrates how inflation disproportionately impacts those with the least financial buffer. Finally, the videos touch on access to services. Think about the hospital scene. The poor character gets basic care, the rich character gets a private room, and the Giga Rich gets a lavish VIP suite with specialized treatments and amenities. This directly relates to real-world issues of equality of opportunity in a market economy. Access to quality health care, education, or legal services often depends heavily on one's economic standing. These videos, intentionally or not, highlight how financial resources can dictate not just what you buy, but what fundamental societal services you can access, and the quality of that access, creating different pathways for life outcomes. The societal perception of wealth and its effects. Beyond the direct economic impact, these videos, despite their humorous tone, can subtly influence our collective perception of wealth and poverty, and consequently affect broader societal debates. They often reinforce economic stereotypes. The poor character is frequently depicted as inherently more virtuous, kind, or resourceful, perhaps suggesting that suffering ennobles the spirit. Conversely, the rich are sometimes shown as snobbish, self-absorbed, or occasionally as benevolent saviors whose generosity is almost effortless. While these are caricatures, prolonged exposure can solidify these simplistic narratives in our minds. What are the implications of these stereotypes for public policy debates about taxation, welfare programs, or wealth redistribution? Do they make us more or less empathetic to different economic realities? The narratives also touch upon concepts like the American dream, or similar aspirations for upward mobility. The idea of becoming popular or succeeding in these videos is almost always linked to economic and social ascension. These narratives, even in their naive form, reflect and sometimes distort the powerful societal aspiration for material success and social status. They can paint a picture where wealth directly correlates with happiness, popularity, or problem-solving ability, potentially setting unrealistic expectations for what success truly entails in the real world. Finally, some of these videos include moments where the Giga Rich character makes donations or performs acts of charity. This offers a valuable opportunity to discuss the concept of philanthropy and the broader corporate social responsibility, CSR, of both wealthy individuals and corporations. What role do immense fortunes play in addressing societal problems? Is private giving a substitute for public policy or a complement? These moments, however simplistic, can open a dialogue about the ethical dimensions of wealth and its potential impact on society beyond personal consumption. Conclusion: more than just dolls. Ultimately, poor versus rich versus Giga Rich videos are far more than just light-hearted entertainment. They are a compelling case study in viral content creation, demonstrating the power of simple visual storytelling that taps into universal human themes of social status, desire, and the human condition. For an economics channel like ours, they offer a unique, accessible entry point into discussions about real-world economic phenomena, income inequality, conspicuous consumption, the demonstration effect, the true cost of living, and even the nuances of economic stereotypes and philanthropy. They vividly demonstrate that sometimes the most light-hearted content can open doors to some of the most profound economic observations. What do you think about this trend? Have you noticed other economic concepts embedded in these seemingly simple videos that I missed? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this analysis, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe for more economic deep dives, and I'll see you in the next video.